I'm Ann Karp, and I live in Missoula. And my artistic media are, I do window art, hand lettering, and murals, and a few other things. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a long and complicated route to get to Missoula. I've kind of lived all over, but actually I came here by way of Georgia. So when we decided it was time to leave Georgia, we traveled around, just living out of our car for 6 months, and I was a little intimidated by the Rocky Mountains. I am a Plains girl, but I said I'll give it a try for a year, and I really love it here. I've been in Missoula since 2009. I've always been artistic in that they're what you would call in elementary school a good drawer. I have a lot of other interests, and I never really knew where to focus them. I got into a lot of other art forms in high school and college, writing and dance and radio and all this. And then I studied Latin American studies, which was wonderful. And I did a series of jobs, and I never really knew where I fit in. And I had come to terms with that, come to peace with that. And then I don't really know what changed in me, but at some point, this little voice said, well, let's give this another go. Talking to people and saying, hey, would you like some art for your windows? Which people did not know what to do with. They're like, you mean like paint the window dark? No. And so there was a lot of rejection at the start, but I wasn't even sure that I wanted to do it full time, but I just gradually worked a little more and a little more and a little more until I just jumped in finally. And so I guess that's how it became professional, but I've always loved art and making things. In the work I do now, I'm almost always working with someone else who is the person, like whose home I'm painting in or whose small business I'm working for. Sometimes people know exactly what they want, and I'm basically just replicating. So that's definitely less artistic, but still demands a fair amount of craft. I love it when people write me a blank check, say, make it pretty, and that's fun too. But it is also really fun to listen to a person and try and figure out what is it they dream of, what would make them just so happy, and make the people who are going to see the art pleased and figure out how to make that happen. So I do like the evolution of that and the back and forth. That's really fun. I do have to create a certain time of day. When I was painting this mural, I was doing it in my living room, and I found that evening was actually my preferred time, and I could put on music, and my husband was out of town at the time, and so I could just boogie down and be loud, and I don't know, that was really nice. But when I'm working, typically I'm following, it's different. In summer, I want to paint early and late, and I will follow the sun, so I'm staying in the shadows, so I'm not baking out there if I can. And then in the winter, it's like the 4-hour period, and God bless you if you have a south-facing window. You're my favorite client ever. I might have an unconventional definition of success as an artist, because it's just if you're doing it, if you're making whatever it is you make, and you're getting joy out of it, that's success. I feel like I often ride the borders of fine art, commercial art, and what is real art. And I try not to get hung up on that question, but just say, are you making things that are satisfying to you? Do you continue to learn? Do you continue to grow and develop your skills? And I feel like I have so many skills yet to develop. But as long as I'm on that trajectory and I'm feeling good about it, then I'm totally content with that. And so I try not to, early in, this was before I started doing what I was doing, but I would do some, submit to an art thing or this or that, and rejections would hit me hard. And I had to back off of that and really just give myself a bit of self-parenting and say, you can't let it destroy you like this. And so I try not to measure myself by metrics that are from external places. I don't know that I have any groundbreaking advice. Not taking it too seriously, but just doing it, practicing it, and not getting too hung up on outcomes particularly, especially at the start, I would say. But I think having someone who you can look up to and interact with is really invaluable. I guess if I had to describe my art in one word, it would be earth-loving. I draw so much inspiration from nature, and I'm always wanting to be out hiking or just outside in some form or another. So that's really central to a lot of the work I do. When I saw the prompt of witness, it reminded me of sort of an idea I'd been batting around for a while based on ghost signs, which are less about the haunting idea of ghosts and more about the history. So ghost signs in a nutshell are old signs, old painted, usually advertisements, I guess, but on the sides of buildings, and sometimes you can see more than one layer of text through the layers. And so there's some artists you don't know who, some craftsperson from decades, maybe even a century ago, and they get worn through. And to me, it sort of encapsulates time and history and these natural processes that wear away at everything. So I'm also a big fan of petroglyphs and pictographs, which might be the original ghost signs. So when I saw the prompt of witness, and then I thought about how that connected with ghost signs and how these signs have seen everything, felt everything through time, I thought, I think I could pull together an idea here that might work for the show. But I did just love being able to slow down with the project, not any timeline. I mean, there is a due date, obviously, but I could just take care with layer upon layer. And honestly, another part I really liked about it was how much I learned, and learning about, well, who has been here in what we call Missoula now, and who has moved through, and what species of animals and plants might also be good representatives. The artwork isn't intended to be exhaustive. There's certainly groups and tribes and identities who have moved through our area who aren't directly included in it, but it's meant to give the idea of that. But just learning about all these groups and then thinking, how can I translate this knowledge into picture format was really fun. And also researching old scripts and like the way that people would use their handwriting then. So they're based on old texts that I found, and excerpts of the written Salish language. And I had some really helpful people who were really kind enough to, I asked, do you mind if I asked you some questions about what you know about history and your heritage? And so I had some very generous people who helped me. So another artist who's in this same show, Monica Gillis Brings Yellow, was really wonderfully generous in sharing what she knew. She knows a lot about the area, and Macy McPherson at Travelers Rest State Park, and also the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes Culture Committee. I didn't get to talk with them directly, but there's also a book that they've written or co-written that's the, I have it written down, but it's the Salish and Kootenai people and the Lewis and Clark expedition. It's this beautiful book with so many pictures and so much history told from that perspective. So, and then there's a tribal lands map too that shows, it really pulls into question what's a boundary, what's a border, because everybody's overlapping, and it sort of felt like what I was going for in my art too. This is probably the most research I've ever done because I felt it was really important to get it right and to be respectful, especially since I was using like the names of tribes, just to make absolutely sure that I got the spelling the way that that group would spell it. So I am eternally grateful to the people who helped me with that. I love this alley. It's such a great idea. Because I love art that's accessible to anybody, anytime. It can be day or night. I mean, this alley is open all the time. It's fairly simple what I'm trying to accomplish with my art. I want to make things of beauty that slow down people's pace of life, make them stop a little bit and look, something that they might have just caught out of the corner of their eye, make them really look at it. I want to contribute to a sense of community. I'd say like over 95% of the stuff I do is for local shops and businesses and nonprofits and people. And I feel like it makes our downtown look a little unique, gives people something to look for, slow their pace. The other thing I love about the art that I get to do is that it's super accessible in that whoever you are, you can see it while you're outside, most of my art. And you can just be walking by, you don't have to have a car, you don't have to have money, you don't have to be the sort of person who feels comfortable walking into a museum or a gallery. You can be anybody, and so I love that accessibility. I just feel so lucky to get to do this every day. And now that it's happened to me, I just feel so lucky. So even when I'm doing a really repetitive task, I don't take it for granted, not a single day.